The night skies over Russia are burning far brighter than the Kremlin would ever dare to admit. Across 11 time zones, power is flickering while Ukraine's deep strikes hit the very center of Russia's heartland. Look at the attack at the Starlitamak petrochemical plant. It's 1,300 kilometers or 800 miles from Ukraine. There we saw the pipelines erupting. Or look in Nizhny Novgorod, the refinery there. That was struck, and now there's not a lot of refining going on. People in Moscow are trying to hide this. The leadership of the city understands that this is not good. This is not what they want the public to see. But what can they do about it? It is spreading. This is not a war fought by artillery alone. It is a war on the machinery that keeps the regime alive. Look at the attack at Oriol. It's 160 kilometers or 100 miles south of Moscow. There we saw that the night turned to day and then back to darkness. Residents heard explosions, but no sirens, no intercepts, no trace of air defense. But the videos, well, they got posted online, and they capture a burning thermal plant there. Today we saw that the officials claimed that it was only falling debris, but they failed to mention that debris was of Ukrainian missiles and drones striking facilities. Today, this dictatorship is losing its ability to control the narrative. And dictatorships fracture first when they lose monopoly over their own narrative. Oriol's 6-hour of blackout was more than just darkness. It was lost production, halted logistics, and evaporating trust. Today across Russia, there's less trust because the government is trying to hide from the public what's going on. But everybody sees what is happening. Today, Russia is losing a war. My name is Jason Smart. I'm a special correspondent for the Kyiv Post and National Security Advisor. What we see today going on in Russia is simply incredible. The attacks have been going and going and going. And they are attacks that Russia is wholly unprepared for. Ukraine has been very strategic and judicious about these attacks. It's going after the specific nodes. It's not just going for the electricity across Russia. It's going for specifically the parts that will have the greatest detrimental effect for the Russian military. So today, Russia's in a situation that it's losing. But let's look at this, though. Let's look why it's losing and what it means and how all of these parts fit together. Because that's the other part. These things are not isolated incidences. There is no attack that happens in isolation. They're all part of a larger strategy. So let's delve into that. But first, I ask you to help me with just one thing. To do me one small favor. As you know, this channel exists because I am here in Ukraine, and I want the world to know the truth. What is really happening here in Ukraine, and what's really happening in Russia, a country that's losing, and a regime that is falling apart, a regime which I wrote my master's and my PhD dissertations about. Today, the Putin regime is on very thin ice, and that's why today we must be backing Ukraine to break the Putin regime. Help me get this message to more people by simply doing this. Subscribe to this channel. Help us reach 250,000 subscribers. And like this video. Share it with others, and leave your comments below. You can also consider becoming a channel member today. Across Russia, we're seeing one attack after another going after Russia's economy. Look in Samara, Tatarstan, and in Bashkortostan. We see that the factories have reported shorter shifts for their workers. We see there's partial closures. The workers are told that their income is going to come, but just not yet. You'll have to wait a little while. Maybe a few weeks, maybe months. Nobody's quite sure. But what we can be sure about is that when you get it, the value of your salary will be less because the ruble is losing value. That means that the average person in Russia is suffering. Not only do they get their income, but when they do, it's an income that is far lower than what it had been just 2 years ago. But there's something else going on. Within Russia, we see that there is a hidden unemployment that is surging. In fact, it's increased more than 150% since January. Today, real wages have fallen by double digits in nearly all of the key industrial towns. Now, Moscow calls this its patriotic discipline for its citizens, that the citizens have a patriotic duty to deal with this. But citizens don't find much humor in this. They call it waiting for a paycheck that will likely never arrive. Ukraine is carrying out deep strikes across Russia that are deliberate, and they're attacking the arteries that feed Russia's war. Each impact is going after a specific function of Russia. Look at the Starlitamak factory, for instance. Ukraine struck that factory, and it was an important one because it was producing the purified feedstocks for high-octane aviation additives. Without that filtration, the lines cannot run. Contaminants could destroy the engines designed for the combat aircraft and the missile fuel. Look in Nizhny Novgorod at the Kostovo refinery cluster. One of Russia's largest, it has about 17 million tons of crude per year, but output there has fallen by roughly half. Keep in mind, there's other plants that we've seen attacked, one after another. The ones that are producing synthetic rubbers, chemical additives, all these things that are used for tires, seals, ballistic propellants, they are being attacked. But when you stop these inputs, every chain, it has its domino effect. We see that the tanks, the trucks, the artillery grind to a slow. Across Russia, there has been a series of attacks, and these attacks are clearly worsening, which is what makes it sort of funny that Russia today thinks that it's time to go back Venezuela. We have to understand that Venezuela, in its relationship with Russia, it's not so simple as what it appears. It's not because Russia is interested in backing the Venezuelans and that it cares for its regime. It's a little bit different than that. Today, Russia is highly dependent on Venezuela. Venezuela is a country that Russia, in fact, just sent an Ilyushin 76 cargo jet to help defend. It went through Algeria and Senegal before landing in Caracas. It delivered Buk and Panzer systems to Venezuela under the guise of being technical assistance. But each system that's sent abroad, it drains the spare parts and the diesel generators that Russia so desperately needs at home. The Kremlin is trading defense for diplomacy, and it's burning real capacity to sustain the illusion of global reach. But very importantly, what everyone must understand is that the Russian-Venezuelan partnership is not foreign policy. It is a criminal pipeline wrapped in flags. Venezuela acts as Moscow's safe house for sanctioned oil, gold, and arms. The regime of Nicolas Maduro launders Russian funds through the Venezuelan state oil companies, and it uses its offshore networks in the Caribbean to do so. Today, we see that Caracas openly works directly with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. It works with Hezbollah. We see that it is working throughout Latin America to destabilize countries there. And this is something that Russia encourages, something that Russia supports. Today, we see that the very same facilities that host Russian radar crews or maintaining air defense, those are the very same areas where we see the drug cartels are most active. It's probably no surprise that when you have a sanctioned regime, such as Venezuela, such as Russia, they work together because there's a black market that's been created. But who else is in the black market? Well, drug cartels in the black market. Terrorist organizations are black market. And they all are de facto sanctioned. They cannot just go to the bank and operate as a normal country or entity. And that's why they work together. That's why there's collusion. That's why it's probably not surprising that North Korea, Iran, Russia, and these regimes, such as the one in Venezuela, such as the one in Nicaragua, and these drug cartels all work together. Drug cartels pay for these protections that they receive by moving cocaine to West Africa using Russian chartered tankers. In return, Russia gains access to laundering channels and access to illicit cash that goes beyond the sanctions. Today, Russia is doing something incredible. It's sending Buk and Panzer missiles to Venezuela to defend it. While back in Russia, we see that its refineries, its power grid, are left undefended. Western intelligence knows very well how Venezuela operates, how it works directly with the Russian regime. In fact, US and Europol data shows a 40% increase in Russian-linked shipping around cartel-controlled ports. Each interdicted vessel is costing Russia millions of dollars. Russia is in an increasingly difficult situation. It's giving a 30% discount on the black market to keep its oil being exported. But at the same time, its allies abroad with whom it works to wash its money, they can't be counted on anymore because they are having their own problems with the United States. You remember what happened to Iran just last year with Israel. But aside from the countries that are having their own external problems, look at the allies that Russia does have globally and how it's destroying its relationship with them. Look at the case of India. We've seen increasing protests there against the Russian government. It seems that many young men had gotten contracts to work in factories in Russia. They've been told they'd work in warehouses. But in fact, they didn't. They were sent off to the front. And now the government in India is very unhappy their citizens are used as cannon fodder by the Russians. But it's typical of Russia. They use others, they do not collaborate with them. So today, Ukraine is helping to put an end to that by putting an end to the Putin regime. Today, the attacks that Ukraine is carrying out are ones that will change this war. Ukraine is not only winning territory, it's dismantling an empire built on brittle control. The Kremlin can delete the broadcast and try to hide it from the public, but the blackouts are something that everybody sees. Victory will not come as a surrender. It will come when the machinery stops turning. And every factory that is idled, every rail line that is silenced, is another line written into the obituary of the Putin regime. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and consider becoming a channel member today. And if you'd like to donate for the Ukrainian soldiers get life-saving drones, please see the first pinned comment below. As always, thank you for supporting Ukraine.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, every shot from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. Afternoon, we lay awake in bed. The laughs so loud as the hours pass. We're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, shot from the top. We're gonna be, we're gonna be two hearts running wild. The best